Hello, folks, and welcome to the Speed Street Podcast. We made it. It is race week. Very, very excited. It's finally time to no longer talk about things that show up on Twitter. We can talk about real activities that took place on a racetrack, maybe even some fisticuffs thrown, maybe even some angry words tossed at each other in real life, maybe even some just good old-fashioned motor racing. I'm excited for it all. I also get to participate. It's a long time since I participated at the St. Petersburg race. Last time I was at St. Petersburg, Kyle Kirkwood wrecked me, which I just remembered. I was watching some race footage, some old stuff, and I was like, oh, that's right. I got hit the last time I raced in St. Petersburg. So we're going to avoid that this year. Kyle Kirkwood and I are great friends. We have understood how to race each other even better. But I'm excited to do battle with everyone out there. It's going to be an amazing weekend. We hope you folks are tuned in. We've got a great episode for you to kind of lay out the whole weekend. This is we're going to give you the schedule. We're going to give you all the places where you can watch IndyCar motor racing on the practice days, on a qualifying day, and then obviously for the motor race as well on Sunday, March 2nd on Fox. We obviously know that it's Fox. Everyone knows. You have to know. If you don't know, please just open your eyes just a little bit more. It's right there. It's right there. Fox, big network sign. It's right there. I promise you won't miss it. We're also going to go through a segment today. We're going to power rank every IndyCar driver. We're going to do a preseason power ranking of 1 through 27, all 27 full-time drivers. I think this will be fun because, boy, is it hard to actually rank drivers when it comes to skill, equipment, everything, where we think they're going, how they're going to start the season when it comes to power rankings. So I thought that was a fun idea. Chase and I will both read through 27 drivers, where we stand. It's not too hard in maybe the top 7 or 8, but boy, is it interesting when you get to about 10 to 19. So that'll be a fun one. We also have Doug Boles on the show this week, president of IndyCar and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Boy, we tried to get into a ton of questions with him, and I think it was a fantastic interview. Hopefully, this gives you guys a great idea of what the series is looking at going forward, where we think we can be as an IndyCar racing series, and some positive momentum. There's been some maybe a little bit too aggressively negative press, and I understand why, but yeah, I think, I don't know. There's a lot we can discuss, and I think Doug has some good answers for us on what we can do moving forward. So please stay tuned for that. Chase, how are we feeling about race week?
I'm feeling great. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there in St. Pete this weekend, so I'm really excited about that.
I'll give you some stickers to hand out. I got some Speed Street stickers. We'll bring them down there. We'll hand them out.
There we go. So I'll be around the way. Very exciting times. I'll always love St. Pete. I'm definitely preparing for the sweats. It's a hot time out there, so you got to
good weather though this weekend.
Yeah,
good weather. About 70 degrees, so you might not be as sweaty as normal.
Okay, well that's good then. That's a really good sign. Maybe that's a lot to do with that polar shift that's happening. How we basically had a blizzard in Louisiana, so maybe that does us well.
Yeah, I'm excited. It'll be good. The both ends of the Speed Street will be there. I will have some Speed Street stickers with me, so if you feel like shouting at us, I'll give some to Chase as well, and we'll see how quickly we can run out of those. But I'm excited for this weekend. Very, very, very ready to just finally go. I mean, there's only so much sitting around and talking about it until you just go for it. So,
right.
If there were a few other news items to discuss as well this week, there is Graham Rahal and the whole Rahal Letterman team. I think will be announcing sponsors probably every week, but also 100 Days to Indy is back. So for those of you who enjoyed 100 Days to Indy on the CW, it's back now. It's going to be a little bit of a different format, which I didn't actually know. I don't think none of my group chats knew that 100 Days to Indy was coming back until we got the little email before the press announcement. So that was a surprise for us. We had thought that might have gone away, but still a great group of people that produced that show. It'll be on Fox Nation, which is Fox's streaming platform. So if you have that, guess what? You're They're locked into 100 Days to Indy. 3 episodes leading up to the Indy 500 and covering the Indy 500. And then also, which a lot of people requested, 3 episodes in the second half of the season to kind of finish off the championship, which I think is good. I think to continue to follow long stories will be a good one. So that will be on the Fox Nation, Fox's streaming platform. So I think that's good for us. Now, again, I didn't know. Like, I'm just curious to see how it turns out. The funny thing about 100 Days to Indy on the CW, everyone was like, "Oh, where's the CW? Oh, we can't watch the CW." I don't know if anyone saw, but like 1.6 million people are tuning into the Xfinity series on the CW. So you can find it as long as you know about it. I promise you that. If there's 1.76 million people watching NASCAR Xfinity racing on the CW, I promise you can find it.
There.
So now we're obviously we don't have to worry about the CW anymore though, because we're Fox people. So Fox Nation.
Did they say if who was going to be followed this year? Like, did they talk a little bit about in the email, like some drivers, or have you heard about any drivers that are going to be on this show, like kind of like targeted on the show?
No, I haven't heard anything yet. I mean, we haven't even seen any of the production folks or some of the folks that were involved last year. So I'm sure that we'll figure it out once we get to St. Pete and once we get a couple races in. I'm sure they will be around in St. Pete. So no real idea yet, but I hope they continue to. Honestly, that show was good. I got to give them credit. A very great show, and it didn't get out to enough people. I think a lot of people got to watch it on Netflix, which is cool. It probably still is on Netflix if you want to watch either the first season, maybe the second season's on there too. But again, our general audience is just it's so small right now that we need to just basically electroshock inject it into so many more people's veins and eyeballs. And I think that, after this year, as we go through this year, with Fox being our primary, our only television partner and our incredible television partner, I think that we can see our general audience go up. So that's the plan. But that was very exciting. Basically, a lot of things that are all leading up to our race. The Carb Day announcement for artists was announced. The Snake Pit lineup was announced. We got this Hy-Vee no longer being the title sponsor of the Iowa doubleheader, which means that there's probably no crazy concerts. The ticket prices will be reduced. So again, I noticed this in another video on YouTube the other day, but a lot of people complained about the ticket prices. So those that complained about the ticket prices, I hope we see you this year. Because again, they were expensive, but time to put your money where your mouth is. Hey, now we're getting cheaper prices. I want to see all those stands sold out because we got great racing to see. And if we're only going to complain about it, which again, it's fair. Money is hard to come by. Trust me, as someone who is not in a tax bracket yet so far this year. I get it.
Hy-Vee was going to be doing something like, are they like out completely, or is there maybe another race that they're looking to do some stuff with?
Well, I still think that they're an event sponsor or some form of a partner, but they're no longer the presenting sponsor of either the Milwaukee Mile event or the Iowa doubleheader. So Hy-Vee clearly taking a step back, which is, again, that's a shame. They provided us with some incredible stuff. They made us as drivers feel like we were loved and welcomed. And I mean, they gave us some incredible gift packets as we got to the races. I even got a pair of AirPods that I still use that were branded Hy-Vee because they gave us AirPods as drivers. So
the grocery market is wide open in IndyCar right now. So
the grocery market's wide open. Yeah, we got to get someone in there. So yeah, that's kind of all that's going on right now. I think I want to dive specifically into St. Pete, though. We've got a race coming up. Before we get to Doug Boles, I want to read through all the schedule information just so everyone knows. Now, this is all over the internet. So again, if you get most of your news from the YouTubes, like we're on the YouTube, well, here you go. We're going to have this for you as well. But this is all over the Twitters, the Instagrams, everywhere. Follow all of IndyCar's social channels. They are really doing a good job on putting out information there. You just got to, I hope it's right there in front of your faces because it's right there, and they're going to do their best to continue to make sure that you know it. So let's start with Friday practice. Friday practice, February 28th, 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Now, our first practice is going to be a little bit of a interesting one. For me, it's different because I haven't been a part of the IndyCar Series when they've kind of separated the practice session into groups. So I think there's a all skate time, like the first 30 minutes is everyone, and then the last 20 is separated into two 10-minute groups. So there's going to be a little bit of a difference there where you're going to see the green tires, the Firestone green tires being run in FP1, Free Practice 1. Free Practice 1 is also live on Fox Sports 1. So, I mean, tune in. If you've got Fox Sports 1, I mean, you can watch our session. So that's great. I'm super excited about that. I know a lot of people will complain, we don't have cable. I understand that. But for those that do, and for all the hotels in North America that have FS1 and kind of the basic sports packages, crank over to Fox Sports 1. So that's 3 to 4:30 p.m. Then we roll into Saturday, so 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. is Free Practice 2. That's live on Fox Sports 2, which is, again, maybe a few less people have FS2, but still on television. Then we roll into qualifying. So qualifying is going to be live on FS1. That's starting at 2:30 to 4 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be exciting. Obviously, qualifying at St. Pete is a wild experience. And then Sunday, we move into race day. Warm-up, nice and early for everyone, 9 a.m. to 9:30. The warm-up session is actually 25 minutes instead of 30 minutes. They have it here as a 30-minute window, but normally our warm-ups in years past have been 30 minutes. For some reason, we're taking 5 minutes off that. I don't know why. Warm-up is super important for race stuff and practice pit stops. But that is also live on Fox Sports 2. Obviously, all this stuff is live on the IndyCar Radio Network as well as SiriusXM, IndyCar Radio. You can get that as well. And then, obviously, the main event, Sunday, March 2nd, 12 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern, roughly, but live on Fox Network, Fox.
Yeah.
You can find it, I promise you. It's going to be awesome.
I just wanted to say, too, you can go to foxsports.com and you get like a 1 hour free preview. So there is something that you can use as well. So you have a 1 hour free preview if you don't have cable by going to foxsports.com.
All right. Well, there you go. That's nice. And again, the streaming stuff, guys, we're trying to work on it. I do believe that they are trying to work on it. That's something that isn't just a flip of the switch. This is easy to do. So yeah, we'll hopefully figure that out at some point. If you're there, please come say hello to us. 100 laps at the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Very, very excited. Last year, we obviously know that there were some interesting results that came out of this race. Some people that got kicked out of the event. So very curious to see if those that got disqualified, how their races go. Pato obviously had a great run last year. This seems to be a race that we've seen Sebastian Bourdais win from dead last, right? If you that early pit stop window, if you happen to pit early, cycle forward with a timely yellow, this race can definitely be swapped on its head a couple different times, and you just always want to be ready to take advantage of these things. I'm excited for it because it's our it's a great street racing event. Overtaking is possible. You get on that front straight, you get down the back, and people make mistakes. We had some punctures last year. Christian Lundgaard had a puncture very early on. The cold tires are very difficult at St. Petersburg, so challenging the drivers there. This is obviously the first race ever at St. Petersburg with our hybrid package now, so the cars are going to be a little bit different. And from what I've noticed at Sebring, the cars definitely might be asking for a few different things than what we've run the last few years. So I think the technical challenges are going to be very interesting for the teams this year. I think you could see some surprises, and you could see some very good cars maybe slide down the order because they just didn't nail it. It's going to be close. It's going to be hundredths, thousandths of a second, and I can't wait. Chase, what are you looking forward to most for this weekend coming up?
Just the action, man. I mean, it's a race I've been to. I've been to St. Pete once, I think in 2023, and being out there for that one, like I said, it was hot. Obviously, there's some really cool spots you can watch the race from. Just kind of like for me, I mean, for you driving, obviously being there, being on the grid that morning, just kind of like feeling that energy, getting prepared for the race, and then afterwards, just finding like a great place to meet up with a lot of great guys that you and I both know that are going to be down there, just kind of celebrating the kickoff. They got like a really cool spot that's like this little bar dock or deck that like floats on the water you can watch from. So yeah. I'm looking forward to just like going to find the boys and kick it with them in that spot and just kind of kick back and watch the race and see what happens, man. It's one of the most nail biting races that I think that you can go to outside of the Indy 500 on the schedule. So if just being there, being around great fans, being around good friends, and just celebrating the beginning of what should be the biggest season in IndyCar in quite some time.
I agree. I think there's a lot to be excited about. One thing that I want to do before we get into the race season is power rankings. We previewed this at our last week's show. And I think this would just be fun. A lot of people, sports pundits and some internet folks and just journalists in general, we love a good tiered ranking system. And I didn't want to put drivers into different tiers of ranks. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Pardon My Take. It's a great podcast. They do, after every week in the NFL, Big Cat does power rankings in tiers of different teams and different names of the tiers. I wanted us to just go through 1 through 27 and rank basically power of driver, team, all the above, all together. So this is very hard. And a lot of people will have a lot of different opinions about this. But Chase, I think I'd like to go, let's go 10 at a time. I'm going to do my 10, then you do your top 10, and then we'll go 11 to 20, and then we'll do the final 7. The final 6, 21 to 27. You feel ready? You feel ready for power ranking season?
I'm prepared, baby. We're ready. This is power rankings time. Big tiers, big ranks. Let's get it.
All right. So let's start off. This is preseason. Now, again, I think we're going to use this same list at the end of the season to see what has changed, who went where, or who got fired in the middle of the year, because that could also happen too. So we've obviously seen. No one is safe. We obviously know that, except maybe Joseph Newgarden and Scott McLaughlin and Colton Herta. But, all right, I'm going to start out my season power rankings. I have to go with Joseph Newgarden as number 1. I know that people are going to hate me for that, but with how many points he lost last year with the disqualification and just still kind of somewhat was in the fight for the championship even after getting a race entirely taken off of his schedule. I think Newgarden is still the guy to beat overall. And with that, I'm going to go to number 2, Alex Palou. I think Alex Palou is obviously defending champion. He will be very, very set on improving ovals, though. I think is Alex Palou going to get his first oval win? If Alex Palou had won an oval last year, I think he would be number 1. But Joseph Newgarden definitely has done both. He's all over the map when it comes to performing at every different place, and 2-time Indy 500 champion. So that's why I put Palou P2. Now, again, this is where it also starts to get tough. So 3, I went with Scott McLaughlin. So Scott McLaughlin, I think when it comes to a potential standpoint, when it comes to much less experience than, let's say, Newgarden and Palou in front of him. Not necessarily a ton less experience than Palou, but a little bit. I think Scotty Mack has a big upside, and I expect him to be fighting for the championship this year. I really do. So that's why I put Scotty Mack P3 on the list. Now, moving to 4th, boy, this 4 through 8 as well is a tough one. I think a lot of people will have different drivers in different spots, but I'm going to go Colton Herta as the 4 spot on my power rankings. Colton Herta has, a few small things probably to clean up. This is just as me being observant, but right at the end of the year, shows up in the championship fight and had a great run to finish off the year. So I think Colton, if there's small mistakes that are cleaned up, right, little a little bit more consistency. I think he has. I think he's one of the most talented drivers that we have in the field right now. Going to P5 on the list, and again, P5 and P6. I've got P5 as Will Power and P6 as Pato. So the reason why I did that, Will Power made some mistakes last year, a couple small mistakes here and there, but again, still was up fighting for the championship, still can deliver race wins, still can be at the front. And Pato, I think Pato is so talented, such a good driver, but he wasn't in the championship fight really at the end. Very close, right? He's kind of close to that upper echelon of coming down to the final race for a championship battle. But I think Pato and that team just need to establish like a Penske type consistency where no matter if they're having a rough day or a great day, they're still going to be in the top 8. And Pato, a couple times last year on the rough days for McLaren, they were way down the list. And so that I think has to be fixed. And that might not be on Pato. That might be just him and how the team works together. So P7, I have Scott Dixon. Now, Scott Dixon, I feel like I have him a little bit lower only because just seeing how tough the season started, just at the test at Sebring, already blew up an engine, had a bit of an accident, but we know Scott Dixon's going to win a race at some point. We know Scott Dixon's going to be at the front most of the season. We know that team is probably the best in the sport. So just have him at P7. Now, before we get over to you, Chase, Kyle Kirkwood I have P8. So Kyle Kirkwood, I believe, has, again, a tremendous upside. Kyle Kirkwood is a winner. Kyle Kirkwood is still super young and learning. And I think, honestly, could be a top 5 championship contender at the end of the year. Could be right up there in the hunt. Maybe even top 3. I think that Andretti Autosport team, Andretti Global, I think that they have a lot to probably prove this year because they got close to the top very, very consistently last year. So that's why I have Kyle Kirkwood at 8th. Now, 9 and 10, this is going to be some interesting ones. 9, I've got Christian Lundgaard. I think Christian Lundgaard at McLaren is going to have a great year. I think he's got a lot of talent. I think that team is looking for a guy like Christian who's got that youthfulness. He's got the willingness to do kind of whatever it takes to win. Now, he does need to figure out the ovals, though. The ovals are for sure a position that he needs to try to improve on. So that's why we have him at 9. And then to finish out my top 10, I've got Felix Rosenqvist. Felix Rosenqvist was so fast in qualifying last year, but we had him on the show not too long ago, right? Just finish out the races and we'll see what happens. I see Felix at the front more often than not. So that's my top 10. And Chase, feel free to get into your top 10 now.
So one thing that I noticed is that we're not too off on these top 10 rankings. However, there are some slight differences. Like you had Joseph Newgarden and Alex Palou. I've got Alex Palou to Joseph Newgarden. So number 1, right. I'm putting Alex Palou there. I do think that we will see that oval win come this year. Don't necessarily know if it's going to be at the Indy 500, but I do think that an oval win is possible. Joseph Newgarden, 2-time Indy 500 winner. You just got to roll with it. He knows that this is a big year for the series. He wants to be the face of this series. He considers himself the face of this series. That confidence should carry over. This is where things get different. My number 3 is Pato.
All right.
I have Pato at number 3 because of what we saw last year with just his popularity worldwide, with Zach Brown and him working together. McLaren knows like this is the year, this is the time, and Pato knows he's got a really good feel for where he's at right now. He knows that this is the time to step up, and I do think that we see a lot of that carry over. That momentum has been building over time. So I love Pato. I'm putting him top 3. My number 4 is Scott Dixon. Scott Dixon is a guy that I feel now knows that, again, big year. He is one of this series, if not the kind of the GOAT of IndyCar at this point right now with the championships he's built. He wants the 7. Okay, why not? He's got 6. Why not go for 7? So
that's a good point.
I see that being kind of the driving factor. We talked about that a little bit last year, but so I had to put him at number 4. Number 5 is where I'm going with Scotty Mack. Scotty Mack's got a lot going on in his life right now. Just had a brand new baby.
He's got dad strength now. He's got dad strength. Yeah.
he's got the dad brain going strong now. Like that is going to add a brand new factor to what we're going to see out there on the track. So I like him stepping up. Number 6 is where I put Colton Herta. So I think that Colton this is my first Andretti driver here. Obviously, he's got the strong finish that he had in Nashville. That's going to be carrying over that momentum. They know that there's a lot of chatter going on right now with the whole F1 deal with Cadillac. He's got to want to step up. Number 7 is where I'm going to go with Will Power. Will Power being kind of like that third guy with the Penske. You don't want to separate them too much, but I feel like Will Power, he's a little bit more of the veteran, a little bit more of the settled. He's got some new management coming into this year, so that was a story that dropped a couple months back. So it's going to be interesting to see how he plays out. Always a great character. Going into number 8 is where I am going with Kyle Kirkwood. He's got a goatee.
We're the same on that.
Yeah. So we're the same on that one right there. Number 9 is Felix Rosenquist for me.
Okay.
I like Fro. I think Fro this year with Meyershank, the partnership that they have, we've seen what he can do in qualifying, and I feel like this is a year where he can capitalize. We had a great conversation with him not too long ago. You can find on Connor's YouTube and on the podcast, so check that out. Number 10, Marcus Ericsson, 2022 Indy 500 winner. I feel like after last year, he knows he wants to step up and get some things back going, so that's where I will drop him. So that is my top 10 of ranking.
That's good. I mean, I like that we've got a couple differences. I think that's really important. All right, let's move into the next half. So I think this is when it gets really interesting, and I had to mark a few names off of my list and then rearrange them a couple times after I started doing some thoughts over some things. So this is when people are going to be like, "Oh, you're crazy," but that's fine. This is open for debate.
This is a dark horse area.
I have myself on this list somewhere too. So don't worry. Like I'm going to give myself a ranking of power and what I need to do to improve and what I need to move up the list. So starting off at 11th, and this was one that I swapped around in my head, Marcus Ericsson. So Marcus Ericsson, obviously Indy 500 champion, but he had a rough year last year. There were some times where it was like, man, tough. And I've got to hang out with Marcus a few times over the last couple weeks. The guy is physically at a new level. He's all jacked up. This is jacked up Marcus season.
Swole guy.
So maybe, it's Swole Ericsson, Swole from Sweden. The Swedish Swole. He's all jacked up. So I think jacked up Marcus Ericsson has some things that he wants to improve on, right? He wants to get back to the winner's circle.
Got to pump those numbers up, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Jack up the numbers. And then, so P12, I went Marcus Armstrong. So I think Marcus Armstrong is a very good driver. I think he's still got a lot to learn. I think there's a lot we don't know about Marcus yet from the capability standpoint. So that's why I've still got him towards the top because, again, very, has been at the front many times. Again, needs a little bit more oval experience. Needs a little bit more oval experience to kind of move up the list. And P13. So P13, I have Santino Ferrucci. So Santino Ferrucci obviously was in the top 10 in the championship last year. What's different about this year? Is the Penske relationship still the same? Michael Cannon is no longer there. What's that relationship like? Is it a direct connect? Is it not? What has happened there was some interesting kind of banter from inside the Foyt garage, over the off season. Not really sure what was going on, but a few different stories kind of going on there. So obviously Santino, we know he's a good driver. Hand up, we know he's a good driver. Had some great finishes and consistent finishes last year, but can he tune it up a notch? Can he move up the ranks by the end of the year by being smarter? Honestly, I think there's still a lot of moments where it's like, hey, let's be a little bit smarter, clean a few things up. That's good. So that's where I have Santino Ferrucci. Now, 14 on the list, 14 and 15, you guys will know quite well. 14, I have Alexander Rossi. Now, Alexander Rossi, we know is very good. Many, many race wins, Indy 500 champion. Since he's been in the Aeroscreen car, though, it's been a challenge. Now, I think he has a monumental challenge in front of him with where he's at. And only because I know his engineer, I know that camp very well. A lot of great people over there. They have an incredible new partner, sponsors that need to be shouted out to the rooftops because they support IndyCar, Splenda, Java House. But I think it's going to be his most challenging year in IndyCar. I will say that now. I think it'll be his most challenging year that he's ever been through in IndyCar. I hope it goes great for him, honestly. I like Alex. We played paddle yesterday, which is sort of like pickleball. I don't know much about paddle or padel or whatever it is, paddle, some sort of...
Yeah, what is that?
Some sort of twist on pickleball. Alex is a great friend, but obviously he wants to be a winner again, right? Wants to get back into victory circle. So does that team. But after seeing the test and kind of some things that happened down there, just, again, we can't read too much from the test. I would be open to even changing these power rankings after 5 races, just curious to see. But I have Alex Rossi as P14, and I have myself as P15. So I'm 15th on the list. I believe that I obviously have a lot to show people still on the road and street courses, of course. Everyone's like, oh, he's an oval guy. Like, look, I get it. That's fine to say. Completely understand that. I have been on the podium at a street course before. Finished 5th in the rain at IndyGP not too long ago. We just at Sebring tested second quickest on the day, one of the days, and, top 10 overall when it comes to 4 different sessions in 2 days. Feeling really good. Physically, I feel like I'm in better shape. This is the best shape I've ever been in my life. Feel great. And a lot is on the line for me every weekend. So I think I would love to be consistently in the top 10 on the road and street courses, and I want to win. We want to get a win this year. We want to win. I don't know if that's going to be at Milwaukee, St. Louis. I don't know if it's going to be at a road course. I would love to win the IndyGP. Guess what? Also want to win the Indy 500. So we want to get a win this year. I think that would give me a more confident way to up the rankings. P16 on the list. I think people will start to argue with this one. David Malukas. So I have David Malukas as 16th. Only because we really haven't seen a full season from David in a while, right? He had the injury and got into a couple different cars, was a McLaren driver, but never really actually raced for them. Was with Shank, had some good races, but also maybe some not as good ones. And then I just think that I want to see a David Malukas full power, full attack season to really see him kind of move up the power rankings. I think he's a very good driver. I've always said that. Very good driver. He's in the Penske system, being with Foyt. I think Penske have their eyes on him, but let's get a season. Let's get a season under our belt, and let's see what happens. Rookie season was great. On the podium. He's been on the podium before, but that's what I'm going to go with. Now, 17, I'm going with Graham Rahal. So Graham Rahal being this far down the list, I think that's more on the RLL shoulders, right? I think RLL as a team has struggled, and we got to look at this from a team standpoint too. Will they make the step forward? Will they improve? Will they fix what they've had going wrong at the Indy 500? Will they get another win? Lundgaard got them their last win, which was great for him, but where can they truly find success? They've got a rookie driver with Louis Foster and Devlin DeFrancesco who, those guys might not have as much to bring to the table as maybe Christian Lundgaard did. So just curious. I like Graham a lot. I think he has the potential to continue to do well. And he also looks very good too. I think Graham might have slimmed down over the offseason too. Maybe a little dad season workouts for him too.
Oh, yeah.
P18 on the list, P18 and 19. These could go up a lot. I think 18th I have Callum Ilott, and 19th I have Rinus VeeKay. Callum Ilott is down that far only because it's a new team. I think Callum is a very good driver, but I'm trying to also basically match, hey, this team's going to have some tough moments. This team's going to have some tough days. They're a new team. They look very professional. They have some incredible people in this organization, but it will take some time. So that's why I have Callum where he's at. And Rinus, obviously the Dale Coyne Racing team is the smallest, least funded team. Rinus is so good as a driver, though. So I only put Rinus this far down because of, the late announcement. Who knows how much preparation has been had? Different engineers for him, different people, small group of team folks. But that's where I've got Rinus. And then 20th, I will go Christian Rasmussen. Christian Rasmussen made a lot of people mad last year, hit a lot of stuff last year, crashed a lot, but he's very fast. We obviously know he's very, very fast. I like Christian a lot. I think he's got a lot to prove, and I hope he keeps his mind in check. I think he's got he's got a big upside, but again, haven't really seen it yet. So that's where I've got my next 10. So Chase, feel free to go ahead.
Yeah, we're just going to take it away from here. So again, not too much out of the ordinary. Definitely some differences. So you have like Lundgaard in your top 10. I'm just going to kick this off. So this is where I would place Lundgaard for number 11. I got to put him there. So not too far back from where you had him. I just think that the new team adjustment, like I don't think he's going to be too far out of it, but there will be some adjustments needed to be had. I think Pato is really going to lead the way there. After that, for 12 is where I have Ferrucci because, again, talented driver, Penske power with the AJ Foyt partnership. He's got to be able to capitalize this year. He's got to be able to back up some of the some of that talk, some of that bow. So I think that it's a bow. That's what I'm going to start using. By the way, for
I know bow wow. I don't know bow. Bow,
wow. Either way. But yeah, he's got to be able to back that up. And so I think that this is the year where we'll get to see if he's going to be able to step that up for sure or not. And this is where I have you, man, coming in right after him. So I have you there. I know that, everyone wants to always talk about your struggles on road courses, this and that. You've put the work in. You're putting the work in constantly.
Thank you.
I know you. I know what you do, man. And I know that you know the opportunity that this year is. So you don't sleep on that. And that's why you are here on this list, P13. 14, this is where I'm going to follow up. I'm going to put Malukas here. I feel like Malukas being out, he definitely has to show up and show out, right? Like, he's got this new team. He looks like he's pretty hype. He's doing a whole bunch of reels right now. He's showing the rockets. He's ready to go to the moon. You can tell from his social media content. So I think that that AJ Foyt team has to work together. They have to be near each other in place. P15 is where I'm going to go with Marcus Armstrong.
All right.
Young lad. We've seen that he can take care of some business on some street courses. And I think that this year, with their partnership that they have, him moving over, he's got a little bit of shine that he wants to kind of put out there to the world. And I think that we can see that start off, should have a strong start in St. Pete. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. After that, this is where I would put Alexander Rossi in 15. From there, and you kind of spoke to him a little bit as well, he's one of them dogs. He's been around. He's got to get around the aero issues that he's having, but I don't think that we should have too much trouble, and there's a lot of expectation on his shoulders. From there, we're going to go into 16 is where I have our guy Callum Ilott with Prema. So I'm throwing him up there in 16. We know that the talent that he has as a driver, we've seen what he can put out there. Just a new team, some of those expectations a little bit wonky. 17, I am going with Kiffin Simpson. So I have Kiffin on here.
Wow. That is very high.
I'm going high on Kiffin, dude.
Wow, hey, Kiffin's your guy. All right.
I'm high on the Kiffin this year. I feel like Kiffin is like a lot of these guys, a lot of these power rankings that I have. I know it's high. I have very high expectations. Like, things could change.
Kiffin Simpson in front of Graham Rahal. Wow.
Well, things can change. I feel like some of these young dudes, they know what they have right now. He is with Ganassi. He is with Ganassi, so I am putting him up there. After him, that's where I will probably have to say Graham Rahal. Looking at what I have on my list, Graham, just an older driver. The main reason that I have him so far down, though, is just because of what we saw with their team last year. And, I mean, it's, for me, coming in, being a little bit newer last year, just trying to really get a scope on everything. That's why, I'm going to have to see what can transpire. I mean, I know they got Louis Foster coming in there. I got him, a little bit later on down, but, you got to be able to step up, and especially with, the legacy that his dad has, that team, you want to see that team do well. So hopefully we can get that going for him. After, I have to go with, let me double check and make sure this is right, because I had this list made. So from here I had Christian Rasmussen right behind right behind him. Christian Rasmussen, I feel like he's another one of these young guys that are coming in. Again, I don't know as much. All right,
That's all right.
I have my vision kind of staked out of what I would like to see, and what we probably will see would be very different. But I have Rasmussen there, and then to top it all off, Rasmussen, okay,
Yes,
Rasmussen. We'll have him there, and then to cap it off at 20 is where I have Nolan Siegel.
Okay,
with Aaron McLaren. And that's going to be it for the 20s. And after this is where it's going to get wonky. I'm going to be real.
I was going to say,
before I start
you still got some people left where I'm like, oh boy, here we go. So let's finish this off. This has actually been really fun. I've enjoyed this a lot. And it's going to get a lot of people talking and arguing with us, which is cool. Like feel free to make your own 1 through 27. Like I don't mind. I think this is interesting. I love kind of where we're at. So I'm going to start with P21 through P27. I'm going to go 21, Robert Schwartzman. I don't know Robert at all. And from what I've heard, Robert really doesn't know a lot about IndyCar racing at all. Apparently, he actually even, I won't say it, but I would like to have Robert on the show. But I think Robert has been so invested in the European F1 situation. I heard quite a funny story of an interaction that he had with Scott McLaughlin at Media Day. It's not for me to tell, but good. You know, I'm excited to see what he can do. I think he showed some speed at testing, but again, so much to learn. New driver, new team, never done ovals. That's a steep learning curve. So I'm going to give him some time, but that's why I've kind of got him down low right now. He could be a superstar. I don't know that. I mean, he was in the Ferrari F1 program, so got to be good. But again, this is based on IndyCar power rankings, experience, team, where you're at. And so P22, I've got Nolan Siegel. Now, that's a McLaren driver at P22. I know that that's very far down the list, but I believe Nolan has a lot to prove to a lot of people. He is in one of probably the most well-funded team in the paddock, the coolest team in the paddock, the team with all the vibes, all the people, and I mean, it's McLaren. So, and what did he do to get there? Well, I don't know yet. So I like him. Couldn't be a nicer kid, honestly. Saw him at Sebring, had a great interaction with him. He's been on this show before, but he's got a lot to prove, I believe. And now moving to P23, I've got Louis Foster. So I've got Louis Foster down there only because the team struggled last year, right? Louis is he's been on this show. He's Indy NXT champion. So we know he's very good, but what is the next level? We don't know enough about Louis Foster yet. So that's why I've got him down there. 24th, I've got Kiffin Simpson. So I've got your boy Kiffin down 24. He's with the best team in the sport. Apparently, he's done. A lot of people were saying that he's done a lot of testing, driving over the winter and the off season
to
get himself ready. More experienced, various cars and stuff like that. That's just allegedly. That's kind of what you hear on the streets. So good for Kiffin. Again, nice guy as well. Good internet guy, as Chase knows. Good internet guy. His car looks cool. His car looks cool, too. He's got a good-looking car. But he's in a big step-up position. 25th, now, again, this is no offense to any of these drivers. Everyone has a chance to move up the list, right? Stingray Robb. I have my teammate Stingray Robb at 25th, only because, I mean, fighting for the leader circle last year, I think he's got a lot in front of him. So I hope to be able to help him move up this list. I think he was very strong at Sebring. I think that there is a lot of people looking for a lot out of Stingray. I think that Stingray also has a lot of great fans. So someone's got to be there, but I've got Stingray at P25. Now, 26th, I've got Jacob Abel. I've got Jacob Abel in 26th. But the 26 and 27 spot, I had Devlin DeFrancesco at 26, but I switched it up. You know what? Actually, I'm going to switch it back. I'm going to put Devlin DeFrancesco at 26
on the fly
because Devlin has some experience. Now, that team, again, struggled last year. And I think Jacob Abel did a great job at the Sebring test. Jacob Abel is 27th, but Jacob Abel, again, big upside. Devlin, I'm not sure what the upside is yet, but I only put him there because of more experience than Jacob Abel. So that's where we're at. That's where my rankings are. That's the top 27 power rankings. So there we go.
All right, so
Chase, give us your final 7.
This is where, I mean, it's really just kind of like the gloves off here, where I'm kind of like lost in the sauce a little bit, and also can just kind of be fun with it. So for 21, I'm going kind of high probably here. So I've got I'm putting VK, Renus VK, Dale Coyne Racing. I'm putting him up there just basically because he's driven. He's driven in here. He's got the driver experience. Okay,
he's a winner.
Don't know much about how things are working on the team front of it, but I have to just kind of trust that driver experience. After that, in 22, I'm putting Louis Foster up. I mean, obviously, he's an NXT champion. He's coming over. He is a rookie, and you want to feel like with him being an RLL, especially after last year, they know that they've got to step up. He's going to want to step up being a champion, so him in 22nd. 23rd, Devlin DeFrancesco. I'm laying him out there. 24th is where I'll put Schwartzman. I know nothing about him at all, like you were saying. So he's just kind of there in 24th. 25th, I have Stingray Rob. And that's just basically, I feel like he's definitely subject to move up. I'll put it that way. I feel like he knows his position where he's at. You guys working together, that's going to be a great team effort. And I feel like with him working with you, I mean, that can only raise the bar higher for both of you guys wanting to compete and bring that team to better spots every week at every race that you compete in. 26 is where I'll put Jacob Abel. A lot to prove, great guy, and I do think that he can move up as well. And then 27th, my last driver that we have, I've literally like lost the place that I was at. Who else do we have here? There's only one guy that can be left. And I'm trying to think.
Did you already miss out on a driver?
I think I missed a driver. I think I missed because I thought I had 27. I have 26. I missed somebody. So wherever this will be, there's no way I could have missed someone. How? Oh my God.
Well,
this is open. Somebody listening to this will know who I didn't mention. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned me. You
doubled
mentioned
up.
Kiffin very early.
Okay.
Huh?
Here's the problem. I doubled up. So everyone's been named. I've doubled up
That's a
somewhere.
shame.
Who did I double up on?
Let's ask Producer Bobby. I think Producer Bobby might have you did name everyone, but you doubled up. So anyway, so whoever your last driver was, who was your last driver? Jacob Abel. You put Jacob Abel last.
Two pieces. Yeah, I don't want. Yeah, so
you
Jacob
counted
Abel
two P16s. That's fine. Hey,
Numbers
we appreciate
hard.
Producer Bobby for making sure what's going on here. Chase, apparently you got to put these numbers down on a sheet of paper.
Yeah, I
and
need
then we'll
to
figure
actually
it out.
number them. What I need to do next time. So that will
Hey,
work.
it's all right. We made it through 27, so we'll obviously we'll be able to update that maybe in the halfway point in the season, maybe at the end of the year as well. I think that was really fun, honestly. I please let us know what you think. Comment what your power rankings are. If you want to get in the YouTube comments and rank 1 through 27, feel free to do that as well. I think that's a lot of fun.
Take my top 10 seriously. Everything else can be scrambled.
I think it's fun when you get down from like 14th to 26. I think that's real fun.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to our guest interview with Doug Boles, president of the IndyCar Series and IMS, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This is a great interview. I hope you guys really, really enjoy it. So here's Doug Boles. Ladies and gentlemen, this week we're very lucky to have, I think, the perfect person to launch us into the IndyCar season. We are finally here. We are in race week. This is a moment we've been waiting far too long for, I believe, which we can talk to Doug about, maybe the length of the season and on the off season. But we've got the president of the IMS, which is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and IndyCar. Doug Boles is here. Doug, thank you. We've got a lot of questions from a lot of people, a lot of very, very exciting topics to discuss. But what has been the first few days as this new role? What have those first few days been like? I assume that it's crazy busy. People think that like I might know all of what's going on, but we are living our own lives. So we are family, but there's a lot going on. So tell people what those first few days have been like.
Yeah, so I guess I'm day 14 today. So it's been really busy in terms of just really trying to catch up with people. Obviously, people reaching out, wanting to give some thoughts and opinions on where we should go and really trying to, organize things. Spent a lot of time with the folks at IndyCar. I'm actually in my IMS office right now, but just getting ready to go back over to IndyCar. So really trying to talk to staff, see what they need. Obviously, this weekend with the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, just making sure people have the tools they need to get up and get running. So that's been a lot of it. And then starting to make the list of what do we need to do long-term to continue to grow the series. So sort of drinking from a fire hose. And right now, I've used the last 2 weeks just to reintroduce myself to folks that maybe I've known but haven't had a constant dialogue with, and then just making sure everybody's got the tools they need to make sure that we have a successful launch of the 2025 NTT IndyCar Series.
So let me get to one question that I think a lot of people want to know, but as obviously as president of the IndyCar Series, so what do you think, what would you list as like the first three roles? Because I think everyone all of a sudden has assumed that you are going to lead us to the promised land of, all right, how do we get a new engine manufacturer? What do we need to add tracks-wise to the schedule? But I assume there's a lot of people when it comes to dealing with the Penske Entertainment, like Roger and Bud Danker and all that group. But what are like your top three first initial job responsibilities, would you say?
Well, I think for me, the biggest thing right now, especially, and one of the first conversations I had was with Kevin Savary at Savary Green to say, okay, what do we need to do to make sure that the kickoff is as big as it should be? That's a great race as it is, but how do we make sure we have the people in the venue? How do we make sure that we're doing everything we can with the new Fox relationship to make sure we give ourselves a chance to have a great number coming out of Sunday? We've all relied on a lot of things that Fox has done. We're all super excited about that relationship, and now we got to deliver. And the last thing we need to have happen is when the cameras go up and the lights go on, there's nobody in the grandstands. There's not that electricity that we absolutely have to have that translates through the TV to the folks at home. So really working on how do we make sure that this weekend coming out is really big. And we'll have to do the same thing with all the promoters throughout the season, is sitting with them. We need our races to not just be races, but we need them to be events. And so what tools do they need? How can we help them get that passion that we all have for our sport, move that forward? On the other side, there's been a ton of work already taking place related to the new car and what's the schedule look like, and helping work with Fox to think about what's our long-term relationship look like with them. So for me, it's just diving back in and figuring out where I can help in terms of what's that new car look like, what's the new engine look like, where are we in those engine manufacturer conversations. Sort of said this in my first answer, it's drinking from a fire hose, but I've got a call tomorrow morning with some folks at 4 a.m. in a completely different continent in order to make sure that we're continuing to move these conversations forward. So a lot to do. So that one's really, really important. And then the other piece for me is how do we continue to stay connected with our fans? Because what makes our sport special are two things. We got the most diverse drivers in the world. They can drive on street courses, they can drive on road courses, they can drive on ovals, both high-speed ovals and small ovals. That's what makes us so special. But what really makes us special is the way our fans embrace us. And we just got to connect to those fans, and we got to get our fans back on board with us. We got to get the fans excited with us. We got to be transparent in the way we communicate so they know we're going into the right direction. And then there's a whole bunch of million of other things we got to work through. But those would be my three big buckets. Okay, yeah.
Now, I feel like, we only have a certain amount of time because you're the busiest person, I think, in sports. But I think very recently there's been a lot of talk about new car manufacturer. Obviously, there's been some stories, and I would say some pretty aggressively negative press towards where we're going. And obviously, there's been, now this change in leadership. People are wondering, is like our new car going to come in 2028 now? Why are so many people going these places and not IndyCar, et cetera? I know that this is a very, very difficult question to answer, but now that you are in the role that you are in, I mean, what will it take to encourage both manufacturers, but what will it take or what can the fans expect to see as it relates to progress for, what are the next steps when it comes to progress towards getting the future of the IndyCar Series more secure and more, more manufacturers involved?
Well, one of the first things I did after this announcement, I went down to Sebring for the test, and part of that was to connect with you guys as drivers, team managers, team owners to the extent I could. But the two most important conversations I had down there were with our current OEMs. So I spent time with the folks at Chevrolet, spent time with the folks at Honda, met them in their trailers, kind of walking through just sort of their list of things that they're looking for, what works, what doesn't. So for me, it was just getting a real understanding, not from what I've read in the newspaper or what I've read online, but from both those manufacturers. So what do they want to see from the series going forward, and what can we do together to help get us there? Obviously, we all want additional OEMs in the marketplace and racing in the NTT IndyCar Series. So that's a component of it. But really, for me, it was just reset with them, understand where they need to be, and understand exactly where both those manufacturers stand from the horse's mouth. I didn't really want to continue to, even hearing some of the stuff internally, conversations, I really wanted to hear it from both Chevrolet and Honda. So I had great conversations with them down there. Follow-up conversations with them coming up in St. Petersburg. So I think those felt really good. What I know right now as it relates to the new car and the new engine format as we go forward, that there's a lot of great conversation going on. There are some unbelievably racing technically savvy people, both from the IndyCar Series side internally, but externally, that are helping us begin to roadmap this. Ultimately, I think we're going to need to have a project manager that's really going to move it forward. But right now, we've got a great collection of experts from the engine side, experts from the chassis side, experts from the hybrid side, if that's the direction that ultimately we want to go, pulling all those components together. So there's a lot more going on than I think people speculate. And part of that challenge with the negativity out there may be that we haven't been as transparent with exactly what's going on. And at some point we need to get there. But part of that is because you want to put together something that a lot of OEMs are excited about. And OEMs don't necessarily all agree with exactly where you go. So you have to start politically thinking about, okay, how do we get to a place that gives us the best opportunity to get as many OEMs happy and excited about our series going forward? And I think once we get to that point, that's the point at which we can say, okay, guys, here's what everything looks like. Here's how we're going to move forward. We want to make sure that we're aligned with where's the automotive industry going, because we need to be aligned with them so that they feel comfortable investing with us. So and I get it. I'm a race fan. I want to know right now, what's the new car going to look like? What's the new engine going to be like? How's it going to make my sport I love so much better? But until we get to a more concrete answer, I think it's just really harder to get out front of that. I would anticipate that's sometime, certainly it's sometime this year. I hope it's sometime in the next few months.
Yeah, I mean, I think we see people often develop certain ways of thinking, if we look at IMSA, which obviously, they participate at one of your facilities at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I think there's a lot of excitement there, but let's be honest, there's not a huge, it's not like there's all these manufacturers are going to IMSA because there's a big TV audience that watches, right. You know what I mean? So there's not, that's not the answer, because if that was the answer, then, I think our audience, it needs to grow, but it's certainly much larger. We have a large, the Indianapolis 500, it's larger than what IMSA is. Now, I love IMSA, and I think it's a growing sport because of the manufacturer support and all that stuff. But how do you make, I guess I'm trying to figure how do you get that type of excitement, even though it's for, let's say, a smaller audience, for maybe a larger audience at the Indianapolis 500, IndyCar? Is it truly hey, we're going to give the manufacturers an option to build their own chassis from ground up? I don't think that's the answer, because that's too expensive. But what is the answer? How do you get them excited? Is there new futuristic regulations that we need to figure out? I don't know what the answer is.
I think one of the things that gets manufacturers excited about the NTT IndyCar Series is how competitive it is. The fact that they are able to run against other OEMs in a really competitive format. They get an unbelievably marquee event as part of it in the Indianapolis 500. The diversity is an opportunity for those OEMs to really have to not just come up with one formula, but how do you compete on all those different tracks where we run? So those are things that I think are attractive to OEMs. What's a little bit different from us than IMSA is the fact that you're competing with your engine format, not with your car. And a lot of those manufacturers involved in IMSA aren't involved at the GTP level, right? They're involved at the level where the car looks like what you can buy in the showroom. That's one thing we don't offer, right? What we do offer are the high speeds, the technology. How do you make a car work for 500 miles at 240 miles an hour at the end of the straightaway with 32 other cars around it? And you're right, we have a little bit bigger audience. So those are the things that we have that's a little different. It's also a little bit of a challenge. One of the things I love about the IMSA race when it's here is you got 17 or 18 manufacturers involved, but a lot of that is because they are, a Porsche looks like a Porsche that you can go buy. So that's probably limits the number. We're not going to have 17 OEMs, right?
Yes.
From that standpoint. So it's a little bit different sale, and you're comparing a little bit apples and oranges when you're comparing the two. But the good news is I think we have an amazing base in terms of our fans. And now we just have to make sure that the rules are the right way to get those OEMs excited moving forward.
I agree. Chase, I'll let you jump in here. I have so many things, but I'm sure let's switch it up. Go ahead.
Yeah, Doug, I wanted to talk with you a little bit about the series underneath the NTT IndyCar Series, the Indy Next Series. There was some news that dropped out. Richard Buck ended up pulling out. He was hired in December. And I kind of want to know just a little bit about that and what the plan is kind of going forward for the Indy Next Series in 2025.
Yeah, so obviously, your viewers, listeners know this, but the Indy Next Series is our feeder series for the NTT IndyCar Series. And it's also owned by Penske Entertainment, and it's a part of what we do, and it's a really essential part of what we do. I've known Richard for a long time. Actually, first met him when he was on the NASCAR side when NASCAR was coming to run here. And Richard is an unbelievable comp and ops operator, really, really respected in the paddock. I think going forward, that's the IndyCar or the Indy Next Series is a little bit different than just a comp and ops series, right? It's pretty formula based. It's really based on how are we nurturing new drivers and those teams, getting them going forward, and frankly, nurturing a lot of times family members who are helping pull those drivers forward, whether they're going to be in the NTT IndyCar Series at some point in time or whether they go off and run sports cars or where they are. And so for us, it was just together with Richard, we felt like the best direction to go forward was to maybe part ways and see where we go. What we're going to do for this weekend, Jason Penix, who works here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, manages through all of our on-track activity, was over at he's been, I think, in our sport for 20 plus years, was at IndyCar when it was Indy Lights, really working through that program. So he and I will go down this weekend to St. Pete and spend as much time as we can with the owners and the team managers. One of my first groups that I called when I took this job was talking to the team managers of each of those teams to try and figure out what do they need, how can we make that series better. We need it to be healthy. So we'll spend time down there with them. Once we get through St. Petersburg, then we'll sit down and think about what's the long-term leadership component look like for the Indy Next Series. It's not Jason. He does not want to do that. He loves his job here at the Speedway. I appreciate the fact that he's stepping up this weekend to help us go through that. Kyle Novak, who calls race control, will continue to call race control like they have in the past. The tech team's the same. I mean, operationally, if you're if you're one of the NXT teams, you won't notice anything there other than you're going to probably see me an awful lot of times over the bridge than you might have in the past, and certainly Jason Penix there. But we do have to figure out who's going to lead that going forward. Fortunately, we've got a little bit of time before we get to the next race after this one.
I had a lot of people ask questions on Instagram, and I want to thank all those folks who asked questions, because I'm reading through a list of a bunch of screenshots of them, and there are a couple that I want to read. Some we don't have time for all of them, but I want to read some that kind of rose to the top. And a lot of people were asking, what is your ideal number of races for our schedule, and what tracks could be added? Right, I think that's a big one. We've got 17 races, great races. I've always said that I would like to see 10 and 10, 20 races, 10 road and street, 10 ovals. But is there a list of venues that are like, hey, this is a top priority for us, or are we just trying to strengthen what we've got now? Because again, to get more races, maybe we need to strengthen a few that are slightly on the lower side of both viewership and attendance. But what do you think when it comes to that?
Well, I think you and I probably are aligned in terms of, kind of thinking through where numbers are. I think the biggest challenge with us is one of the things I've heard a lot in the last 2 weeks is the summer is a challenge for the teams. I mean, you're back to back. There's just not a lot of time off. But in order for us to really get our season in, the summer tends to be pretty packed. And I don't know how we do that any differently unless we go later, which I know there's a debate over later with our current new TV partner. They're pretty committed to football. So I think later is probably not going to happen. Then you start looking at what's earlier. How can you go earlier? What are the weekends you can go earlier? Then that means you got to find events that are in the South or at least warmer. So we have to look through that. Definitely, I mean, there's been the conversation. It's not a secret. Mexico is an important market for us.
Yes.
It's not a secret as well that some market between Indianapolis and California is important for us. And then, like I said from the beginning, I mean, we have to sit down with our promoters and help them grow those events because we need healthy events, not just races. You want to have races where when the driver or the fan gets off the airport in whatever market it is, you're in a race market. The worst thing that happens is when a driver's checking in to get his rental car and they say, hey, why are you here? And you say, hey, I'm here for a race. And people go, what are you talking about, a race? We got to solve that.
Great point.
So we got to be in markets where that entire market embraces the fact that the NTT IndyCar Series is there to grow it. So there's a lot of questions around venues. We do have a couple markets that I think are really important that we're trying to deliver on. And then we got to look at other ones that, if they're venues that don't make sense, that then we ought to think about whether or not, we need to move them. One of the things, we used to host the 2 road races here at the Speedway and the 500. And when we had an opportunity to go to Milwaukee, I was the first one to raise my hand and say, we don't need 2 road races at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Let's figure out other markets. So I think we just have to find the best markets for us that are good for our fans and good for television audience.
I agree. Chase, I'm going to let you get one more in before I throw in another one, just so we respect the time.
So I got to ask, Doug, you're now in the presidential role. If there was one track that you would like to see IndyCar return to, what would it be and why?
Well, as a fan and maybe as a former team owner, I'd love to go back to Richmond.
That's it.
I love
All right.
I love that town because it was a racing town. That track tends to be, short 7/8 mile oval, which tends to put on great racing around the IndyCar Series. So that's one that I definitely love and enjoy going to. And people have seen my screaming moment on that lives forever now on the internet when Thomas Inge got penalized for a block. But we were blocking because somebody blocked us. We can go through all that again. I got in trouble when I got to go to a
lot of passion.
I got to go to the hauler there. No, it's a great place. So, but and we thought in 2020 we were going to go back there, and then COVID happened. So if you were making me pick, that would be one. Outside of that, I think we just got to find places where the markets embrace us, where we think we're going to have the numbers that we want to have when the TV lights come on, that it looks like it's an event. So when people tune in, they go, I better watch this because look how many people are there. I mean, I think that's really probably the biggest lens through which we need to decide where the venues are.
Love it.
This is an interesting one that a lot of people ask, and I know that we're getting close on time, but we're president of IndyCar now. You're president of IndyCar now, obviously. But a lot of people asked, what is it? What would it take to get Formula One back to IMS? Has that been a discussion? Obviously, there's a lot of Formula One popularity in the United States right now, and honestly, probably close to the limit of races in North America, I would say, considering they're a world championship. But has that discussion been had? And is there any excitement about that potential in the future?
Other than maybe one or two other questions, that's the question I get more than any. Is there a possibility that Formula One could come back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway? So our road course is still FIA Grade 1. There's only 2 permanent road courses in the U.S. that are FIA Grade 1, COTA and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We felt like for 2 reasons. We want to be the greatest race course in the world, so we got to be Grade 1. And then secondly, if there ever was an opportunity for Formula One to come back, they'd know that they could come back here without really any major modifications to the racetrack itself. I think the biggest challenge there's 2 challenges to them coming back here. One of them is, you're right, there are three venues already in the U.S. I don't know that a 4th makes sense, so that would probably mean one of those 3 races probably shouldn't be on their schedule, which I don't see that happening in the near future. And then the other one, which is probably the bigger issue, is just how much sanction fee that it takes to get a Formula One race. Most of the races where Formula One goes, they get a massive amount of money from the local tourism board or whatever.
Can we get a ballpark on that? Is there like a ballpark of what that is?
The state of Texas has a super fund, and so the tax dollars, actually $40+ million, goes to Formula One to show up to race at COTA. So if and the state of Indiana doesn't have that, so that money would have to come from the racetrack. And if you take $40 million and start figuring out how much ticket prices have to be in order for us to get to a point where we just break even financially, it just doesn't make sense. Would we love to have one? Absolutely. But we're not going to have an F1 race here that that doesn't at least break even. And frankly, right now our focus is how do we grow the NTT IndyCar Series, and just the distraction of an F1 race here right now probably doesn't make a lot of sense. But the bigger hurdle is frankly the financial commitment that it takes to get over the hill.
For sure. No, a lot of people asked that, so it was very interesting. I know you probably have to go here in a second now. Is that correct? Are you all right?
I got 5 or 6 minutes.
Okay, all right. Well, I have a couple more, so that's good. The museum. I think a lot of people are excited about the museum. Can you give people kind of a little bit of a preview? What might be the coolest thing that they'll see? And then do we have an exact day of when it's going to open yet? I know it says April 2025, but can you tell people about that?
Yeah, public opening will be April 2nd.
Nice.
So that'll be the day when people can get in there. It is going to transform the way that we tell the story about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and in particular, IndyCar racing, but also the other events that have taken place here. So if you loved it before, you loved it because you loved the cars and they were static. What you'll love about it now is you can bring your friends who don't know anything about the racing. You can bring your kids in, whatever you want to do, and you can tell the story and walk people through why they should love it without Disneyfying it. What's going to capture people the most, I think, is there's a starting line experience. As you walk in and you have a couple yellow shirts in video that are telling you when you can walk in the room. And as you walk in the room, it's video all the way across the top of you in the wall. And it starts from 4:30-ish in the morning on race day as teams are starting to load in through the cannon fire and all the pomp and circumstance leading up to the start of the Indianapolis 500 with just massive video and the flyover. We walked through it last week, even when it wasn't completely rendered and with all those subwoofers going. And it's almost, if you love the place like we all love it, it's hard not to cry. It's that emotional feeling that get at the beginning of the race. It features a lot of our drivers. Connor, you have a cameo in there in the car right before it with a little point to the screen. I mean, there's just some cool stuff in there. Driver intros. It'll give people that experience like you're standing on the grid without actually being on the grid. I think it's going to create a lot of fans. And for those of us that are fans, when we're trying to introduce somebody to our sport, it'll do it in a way that's really interactive and entertaining. So April 2nd.
I love that. I think for me personally, there's probably not much more I can ask without getting a long answer. But I think we're all excited. I think there's a lot that we have to do. But I think a lot of people trust your leadership, which I think is fantastic. Did you know for a long time that this might be where we're going? And what's it like to, I guess, kind of do both jobs? President of IMS, president of IndyCar. Is this something that was, a very recent discussion? I know obviously you talk with Roger very regularly, and this is a very, very strong group of people, but, has there been some good people that have been put around you to kind of help support both of these jobs for you? Because we want to make sure that you survive and there's enough hours for sleep and breathing oxygen and stuff like that.
So I'll take the first question first. I mean, obviously, I've been here at the Speedway since 2010. I've been in the sport since 1997. So this is my home. This is where I want to be. This is what I want to see succeed, as much because I'm a fan of it as anything else. So that's really important to me. So I think Roger and the team have always known that I'm happy to raise my hand anytime that I'm needed. Did I know that this job was happening for a long period of time? Absolutely not. In fact,
because people think I knew too, and I had no idea. So you called me, and I couldn't take your call when you told me.
I called you the morning of the announcement, 30 minutes before the announcement, and you didn't take my call. And
nope.
I on purpose did that. I didn't want to put you in a spot where you knew something. And then it's hard, when we all know something, it's sometimes hard to get put in a spot. Somebody asks you a question, you don't want to not tell the truth. That's the most important thing. So I was trying to relieve you from the pressure of having to say, oh yeah, I knew that. So obviously I reach out to you on a lot of things for your advice. I mean, this sport and love it, as a fan as well, not just a driver. So when I got the call, the first thing that I was told was, look, we need you to continue to keep the magic going at the Speedway, but we need you to do it with using about 20% of your time and 80% of it on the IndyCar Series side of things. So we restructured a bit here internally, which I think is going to work really well. I mean, the team that's here has been here for several years. They know how to execute. The biggest thing for me is I want them to always think through, make sure as we're making decisions, we're thinking about how does it impact the fan. We want to make sure that the fan experience is always a priority here. And then for me, it's just been really diving in on the IndyCar Series side. Obviously, I've known a lot about it on the periphery because I'm involved in a lot of things that have gone on here really since Rogers purchased the Speedway, but really getting in the nitty gritty. So that's taken a lot of time. Literally, in the first 24 hours of this job, I had over 600 text messages, and I'm still trying to get through all of them. Most of them just congratulations, but a lot of them are, and the number of text messages I've received today after the news that Richard Buck was not going to be with us anymore, of people that are ready to take that job on. It's amazing the number of people who pay attention to our sport. And for me, just trying to balance through that and make sure that I've got a team around me that can support me, but more importantly, how am I supporting them? Because we got to just continue to grow this sport.
Well, that's great. We appreciate your time, Doug. Honestly, I think there's we should do like a mid-season update and then a post-season update just to see what we're feeling like. Again, Fox this weekend, Sunday. We appreciate Fox, what they're doing, and we appreciate you for being here on the show. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to do it. And then in terms of the other questions you've got, maybe you and I over the next couple of weeks can sit down and I can help you answer some of those, because I'm happy to answer questions. One of my favorite things I did in the last 6 months was answer Marshall's mailbag questions that related to the Speedway. So like I said, one of the things we got to do is be as transparent as we can. I hope fans know at some point there are times where we got to just keep things sort of closer to the vest till we know what's rolling out, so we don't deal with rumors. So
respect the process. People have to respect the process.
A little bit of patience on that, but just know that we're looking at things. We want the sport to grow. We want it to be better. And we want the fans to love it. And when they love it, we want them to feel really proud of the product that they love, and look forward to seeing people this weekend.
Awesome. Well, Doug, we appreciate that. El Presidente, a lot of great merch around you being president as well from the shop. I thought that was cool. So thank you, and we'll see you in St. Pete.
All right. See you soon.
We can't thank Doug Boles enough for spending some time with us. His schedule is truly insane. And a lot of people, I know I couldn't get to everyone's Instagram comments and questions, but really appreciate those who did engage with that and send in some questions. There were some really good ones that hopefully you enjoyed hearing some answers to. But yeah, I don't know how he does it. I really don't. I respect that he just puts so much of his life into this sport, into the series. He really does care about seeing this series go to places that I believe that it deserves. I think the moon being one of them. You know, we'd obviously like to see IndyCar on the moon. But I still think this series is so highly underutilized and so highly underappreciated for what it is. And you know, a lot of internet haters just do it because they think it's funny to make fun of IndyCar, when I just truly believe that a lot of folks around the sport, whether it's in Formula One, NASCAR, anywhere else, have so much more respect for our series than I think the public realizes. So Doug is going to do his best, and he's going to do his best to get us there, to get us to the moon, to get us on the rocket ship, and I'm excited for the future. So with that, Chase, let's get to our final segment before we get to the first race of the season. This is the Ricky Treadway Random Indy 500 Driver of the Week.
Greatest event of its kind that's ever been run on.
Let's meet the drivers. Who make up the field?
All right, this week we went to the 1950 Indianapolis 500. 1950 Indianapolis 500 was won by Johnny Parsons. Johnny Parsons, a name that I feel like a lot of folks in motorsport know. But I went and found a member of a racing family, which I discovered not discovered, but I've known this name before. But the 32nd place finisher is Dick Rathman. Dick Rathman finished 32nd. James Merwin Dick Rathman was born in 1926, died in the year 2000. So long life for Dick Rathman. Brother of Jim Rathman, So two brothers in racing, which is really cool. Rathman and his younger brother swapped names while teenagers. He was an 18-year-old going by the name of Jim Rathman when his brother wanted to start racing. To help him enter races, he traded IDs with him and assumed the identity of Dick Rathman.
Whoa.
The change stuck for life in public circles.
Incredible.
So, that's hilarious. So he basically just became a different person.
Jim and Dick.
Love that. So Dick Rathman had several Indy 500s. So if you go to the historical, boy, that's a lot of Indy 500s. So 1950, 1956, 7, 8, 9, 1960, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, that's a lot of Indy 500s. Now, 1957, he did withdraw from the race. 1958, qualified on pole. So that's pretty cool. He did not win the Indy 500, but qualified on pole, which is pretty awesome. So a lot of Indy 500s for Dick Rathman. This is hilarious. I mean, crazy. I don't know if you see this, Chase. Rathman qualified for the 1957 race, but was mugged the night before the event. He was replaced in the car by Johnny Parsons.
Holy crap. Dude, that's a story.
I was mugged.
Dude, trading
That's
identity,
crazy.
It could have been karma for trading identity. You never know. I just feel like some of these guys need movies. I mean,
This sounds like a great story. Yeah, what happened?
Like how, what, when, where, why? I'm reading it now. Yeah, you just never know. You never know with the history being as big as it is. I mean, guy's got a great name as always. I feel like we need some kind of. He needs to have some. Is there a statue of him somewhere?
I don't know.
In the world, there should be.
Yeah.
How many drivers do you know in your life that have gotten mugged?
The night before the race. Well, you know what's funny, Chase? I don't know if you know this, but Dario Franchitti and Scott Dixon actually got robbed at the Taco Bell drive-thru right next to the track just not too long ago. Yeah. This was, I believe, after qualifying. Someone can correct me on this. I think this was either after qualifying or the race. But Scott Dixon, Dario Franchitti, in line for the Taco Bell drive-thru in Speedway, got robbed, which is still one of the craziest stories ever.
Yeah, when Scott comes back on the show, we're definitely talking about that.
Yeah, please, actually, that's a great idea. We got to remind ourselves. We could have asked Dario too, but what was it like getting robbed at a Taco Bell drive-thru? Because that's wild.
At Taco Bell of all places. Like I could not think of a worse place to get robbed at. Like trying to get my nacho fries. Mugged.
Yeah, couple cheesy gordita crunches, and now I have no more money. So
all right,
anyway,
I have something in common with Dick. There we go.
Yep. Wow. So anyway, that's wild. I did not know that. Again, we try to find out something new and exciting for Indy 500 history every day. I think we found out something great today. So shout out to all the folks that love the Ricky Treadway Random Indy 500 Driver of the Week. It's race week. Please tune into this show. Please subscribe to the channel if you enjoy it. Leave us some comments wherever you want to leave some comments, whether that's on the internets, the YouTubes, the Twitters, the Instagrams. We appreciate you folks for listening. Fox this weekend, make it your home. Be a friend and tell a friend. Tell one friend who wants to tell another friend to watch IndyCar racing, 12:30, middle of the day, easy to watch, Sunday race day. Get a nice, maybe order some food. Sit down with your friends, watch some IndyCar motor racing. Maybe have a cold beverage or two, or a warm beverage. Maybe it's coffee time still. Who knows? But please do it. We need your help. We need the support. And I think it's going to be a great product to watch. So with that, we will see you next week when we get to talk to the winner. At least I hope. I haven't actually got that confirmed from anyone at IndyCar, but I assume we're going to get to talk to the winner.
I'm going to be in Universal Studios too by that week. So that'll be the first show where we don't have the normal backdrop. I will be at a hotel in Universal Studios. I'm
going to be at the simulator on Tuesday too. So we're going to have to figure out how we record this show or when we do it.
Be at Universal Studios.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, but stay tuned. Hopefully it's me. I would like to be the winner interview. We shall see what happens. But thank you, folks, for listening. Thank you for supporting the NTT IndyCar Series, and we'll see you next week on Speed Street. Hey, everyone. Connor Daly here. Please leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it, and also subscribe to the channel as well. That would be very helpful. Be a friend, tell a friend. Thank you so much for the support, and we'll see you on the next episode of Speed Street.